Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is almost football time, my Dynasty degenerates. Host with the most, Obi-Don Kenobi, the one and only, man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, often imitated, never duplicated. We are back, man. Dynasty Elite Podcast. Super happy to be here. Super happy to be filming again and kind of get back into the hype. Season's getting closer. We're done with all the training camp hype videos. Man, I was living in Twitter for every video. George Pickens was a star. George Pickens was dogging out in those videos. But yeah, man, we're here. We're getting preseason games. We're getting to see snaps. We're getting to see who's not playing, which is almost more foretelling than who is playing. It's an exciting time for football, man. Everybody's excited. Their teams are kind of gearing up. We're seeing what the development's going to look like for this next season. And what a better time, if not now, to do a full Dynasty Till Death league roster review. So as I said, we're going to be diving in each roster. We're going to go over strengths. We're going to go over weaknesses. We're going to go over potential X factors for each team. Again, I'm also going to give you some insight to kind of what the buzz is around the league. I personally like to be somebody who's kind of integrated, knows kind of where everybody feels and how everybody's feeling about certain rosters, whether that be true or untrue. But we're going to talk about it today. I'm very excited to be here. So without that, man, let's roll. Let's get to it, baby. So, right off the bat, man, we're going to go with one of the heavy hitters. We're going to touch base on Javi, man. Javi's got a very, very strong team this season. Somebody who is regularly committed to winning, used to being in the playoffs, somebody who kind of only knows that lifestyle. There's only a few of us that kind of commit to that and expect to be in the running each year, and that's definitely Javi. Some of the things I wrote down as far as strengths for him were definitely his balance overall in his roster. I think when you have somebody like a Justin Jefferson, man, it really just brings balance to your whole positional room. So to pair him off, got some older veterans there, but just good balance again. So we're talking Justin Jefferson, we're talking Najee Harris here, we're talking, Joey B, one of those top three elite quarterback options. George Kittle, so older but still elite. So again, Javi's extremely balanced here in making that push. Personally, I would love to see some more balance as far as evening out that youth there. We do have some situations with a Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper, who I think we all expect Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper to have really strong seasons this year. But that being said, of course, you always want to think about that. It's kind of why it was crucial he did draft Zay Flowers. Javi's roster without Flowers, I'd be super concerned as far as that turnaround, what that roster looks like next season. But Justin Jefferson, Zay Flowers, great options to provide balance to that room. Really love that. And just it's straightforward, man. Javi's somebody who's going to want to be in the playoffs, who wants to be a force, who's going to put up a lot of points each week. He's somebody who nobody's going to really want to play overall there. So Javi's done a great job of constructing the build, kind of did some retools, moved Higgins, moved the wide receiver, or moved the running back room around a little bit. I think Javi did actually a really great job there. I'm big, and you're going to hear me talk about this a lot on people's rosters. There is a shift happening at the running back position and dynasty assets and contracts. And, we don't know what this end game looks like. So the more running backs on rookie deals and aren't waiting to get paid next season and assets that can be transferable. Some of these dynasty assets aren't always transferable year to year. But I think Javi's done a great job, kind of locking in those studs, man. ETN, Najee, Swift is somebody who would be on the other side of that, in my opinion. So next year, what does Swift's, football outlook look like? If he doesn't have an outstanding season here, does he get resigned here? Does he fight the battle all running backs are fighting and not getting, a contract that he feels that he wants? But man, aside from that, I think Javi's done a great job of staying youthful at the right positions. And also taking the risk on older players at that wide receiver range when you're a competitor. It's always different, man. A team who's rebuilding and then, a John or, Jeff has been rebuilding in the past. Those types of teams, Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper just don't seem attainable and don't seem smart for you to attain. But for somebody like a Javi, man, that's the difference between a championship there. Still having Mike Evans and Zay Flowers off the bench for depth pieces and roles. I think he's got Jamal Williams for some more depth at running back to rotate in there with the Kamara suspension, and then we got Kendre Miller with that injury. So Jamal Williams is looking like a very, very solid flex there. I might even flex him in over Swift, to be honest, just with the consistency in the role. So Javi's doing a great job there. Just wanted to touch base, give him some love there. One of the more balanced teams in the roster or in the league. Javi's just done a fantastic job of keeping things kind of kosher and right there. Would I love to add another young wide receiver on his bench to develop? Of course, but he's a competitor right now, still has that first round pick. So nothing but love for you there, Javi. Plan to see you in the playoffs, big dog. We're gonna slide back in. Another big gun here, man. We got Rocco. Man, Rocco is he's making the push. He's really committed this year. I want to say Rocco has the best running back room, and maybe the most high-powered running back room in the whole league. Chubb, Derrick Henry, Ramondre, Pacheco, White. It's just it's impressive, man. He's really got some high-end dudes there that are going to be able to carry his roster all season long. We're going to talk a little bit about the wide receiver uncertainties, but I just want to make sure I preface that they're uncertainties, but they're not as bad when you have a running back room like Rockerman does. So Lamar Jackson's in a position he could have a huge, huge year. New offensive coordinator over there, new weapons. We talked about Zay Flowers a little bit earlier today. So again, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Christian Watson. I actually put down Christian Watson as Rockerman's X factor. If Christian Watson comes in and is in a position to where maybe we start to see some more consistency around what he was doing last year, we definitely saw some of that ceiling with him and that big play potential and the touchdowns. If he can work in a level of consistency to be that steady stud wide receiver 3 for Rockerman, that might be the difference in him kind of actually getting over the hump, jumping in the playoffs, kicking somebody out of the playoffs, and making a push for a championship. It's very, very interesting. His team, he's all in, man. I love the commitment here. I never shy away from it. He still has a couple second-round picks. He'll probably keep the draft, though, since he does a good job. Loving Marvin Mims on the bench. Big fan there. I want to say his tight end situation, Darren Waller, is looking extremely interesting with the Giants. He's one of those tight ends who could end up leading that team in targets. So the ceiling is there 100%. Getting out of that situation in Vegas and kind of just in a new situation. I feel like Waller is one of those. He could have been that X factor also. I just feel like wide receiver, there's a drop off for Rockerman after Adams and after DK, and bye weeks and depth and injuries. If you don't have 4 that you can rely on, and I'm talking about wide receivers, that's kind of my judgment line of teams. If you don't have a steady 4 rotation at wide receiver of guys that I can trust and kind of rely to kind of do what they do, to me, I personally think that you're a little bit behind the ball there. So again, Rockerman's got some great young pieces on the bench. Elijah Moore, another potential X factor for him. So with Mims, Elijah Moore, Christian Watson, you're seeing some of the youth there that he has that will provide some longevity there when he has and goes out and takes the risk and acquires a Devontae Adams and moves off of Terry McLaurin for those types of situations to get a little bit more high-end power there. So love to see that there. Again, Rockerman, expect him to be a force in the league this year, 100%. He's always a very consistent owner. Doesn't make too many moves to shake it up, but this offseason he looked to address the issues and concerns that he wanted to address, and we're just excited to see kind of what that team pushes through and what that team does. We're sitting with the heavy hitters, man. We're going to keep it rolling. So we got Zach Attack here, man. We got big Zach. Zach, man, strengths, Tyreek, Cup, Amon-Ra, Chris Olave. I just touched base on having a good rotation of 4 wide receivers. Zach is arguably in the best position to have the best starting 4 rotation. To me, that's hindrance on Cup's health, on Tyreek's ability to stay healthy. But we're already hearing Tyreek talk about he's going for 2,000 yards. I mean, anytime I hear that coming out my receiver's mouth, I'm excited. And I have expectations that are valid. So Tyreek Hill, and again, Amon-Ra. I think Amon-Ra is the leader of this core. This is somebody who Zach has scouted himself. So I always like to give credit to the players and the owners who have scouted these guys early when they weren't the gems, go out and acquire them, and have kind of ridden the wave of kind of inconsistency, and now they're in the promised land. And I think Amon-Ra is somebody who does a great job of just being, man, just a dog, man. Amon-Ra is just somebody any owner would like to have him on his roster, to pair him with Cooper Kupp, Chris Olave, and Tyreek Hill. I think just speaks to Zach's ability to be a great owner. We're going to touch base a little bit on the weakness here is a quarterback, I would say. And I also kind of paired this as an X factor for Zach. If he can get, stable high end play out of Cousins and Purdy, I think Zach might be okay in the situation, kind of waiting on Kyler to see how that situation plays out in Arizona. Again, if Kyler does play later in the back end of the season, Zach kind of just has to wade through the first kind of, 3 quarters of the season to be relevant there. Wide running back room, not super high end, but depth. I think you're going to find some consistency there. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Miles Sanders getting that contract there. Got his future piece in Kendre Miller. Kendre did just come up with a little bit of tweak there. There is some week one doubt, which we really have loved to see Kendre kind of come out week one with Kamara gone. And just having an opportunity. So there's still possibility there. We would like to see Kendre get on the field sooner than later. I think with Kamara coming back after his couple games, he's going to be rearing to go. Jamal Williams is going to be in kind of rhythm at that point in time as well. So just the earlier Kendrick can kind of showcase, and the fact he'll probably miss preseason, not ideal there. But still for the future, I know Zach's thinking a year or two out in this situation with Kendre, so I know he's happy there. And then J.K. Dobbins, I think he just got activated off the pup, if I'm not mistaken. I still know he wants that contract situation. But again, man, we got to talk about this, and a couple of owners in the league have talked about this, running backs and what their contract situation looks like a year from now. So if J.K. Dobbins is somebody who really hasn't been able to stay healthy, despite what people have felt and kind of disagreed there. But to me, it doesn't seem like Dobbins has stayed healthy, has been happy with his contract, and it doesn't seem that Baltimore is not the type that they're going to bend over backwards for a player. Baltimore has shipped out some of their greatest players due to money and contractual obligations and things like that. So I don't like that situation as much, but I still think if J.K. Dobbins gets on the field for Baltimore in this new offense, Zach could have an elite starting roster. Elite, elite, elite. Still got Hawkinson over there. Although I do think you're going to see a small downtick in Hawkinson with Jordan Addison coming on over there, KJ Osborne kind of rising up as well, figuring out that wide receiver 2 position. But Kirk's going to tote that rock, man. Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball, so I think there's going to be plenty of pie left there for Hawkinson to still be a force at the tight end position. So it's very interesting with Zach, man. I think Zach is holding on to that, that mindset of, man, if we just get back in the dance, he's got a great shot to win that. And I can't fault him for that mindset. It led him to a championship last year, same as Drew. So just getting in that dance, if you feel like you have enough ponies there to do that, I think that's something you really, really have to look into. So we're going to move right along. We're going to go with Jeff Sims. Simpson, Jeff Sims. Brethren, very, very interesting roster here. I kind of just running back room has grown on me. Early on, I didn't really love it, but as I've told you, the league is in transition with these running backs, man. So Demont getting that contract there, playing with somebody like Jahmyr Gibbs, who may not necessarily take too many carries away from him. And there's a lot of talk in Detroit about getting them both on the field and them both being useful and a 2-back set there. And it's something they've kind of tried to do in Detroit for a long time. So I think Demont's extremely safe. He's that kind of set it and forget it flex for me. If you're going running back and running 3 running backs, Demont, slide him into that flex spot and don't think twice about it. So love that there. Dameon Pierce, I'm very interested to see what Dameon Pierce does. He fits some of the build for me. Rookie contract, not paying this guy a lot, going to be on his roster for the next couple of years. Could be replaced, but had a very strong showing, man. And I don't see they're in a position to when you're in a rebuild like Houston is, you can't really take double shots at positions. You need to just say, okay, you know what? If we have a Dameon Pierce who's more than capable, he's slimmed down, kind of excelling and trying to expand on his pass catching ability and becoming a better all around running back. I believe they're just going to commit there, play some defense, run the football, and let C.J. Stroud develop. So I really like the situation there, and Joe Mixon kind of for that high-end, high-powered offense. Again, don't love the contract situation. There was a lot of chatter about him getting moved out, and we have some off-the-field issues there, but I believe he did a restructure to kind of make himself still viable in Cincinnati, which is great. You want a running back who's going to see a lot of red zone targets. You want a running back who's going to be involved in a high scoring offense, and Joe Mixon fits that. So as long as he can stay healthy there, still produce, still get that workload, not seeing too many threatening running backs behind him. So super, super interesting there. Areas of concern for Jeff have to be the wide receiver room. I had Michael Pittman earlier this offseason. I was a little cautious with, Anthony Richardson coming over and what that looked like together. That being said, I still love Michael Pittman. I'm not wearing my Pity City shirt, but I do still own the Pity City shirt. So I am still a believer in Michael Pittman. But I just don't know if I love him as my one. But for just roster's sake, I hope I have never been more wrong. Michael Pittman is somebody who's kind of been ascending in that 25-year range. So again, just young enough to still be a core piece. But again, Sutton behind him, Bateman behind him. There are questions in that offense. There are questions for those players with health. Sutton and Bateman specifically have dealt with injuries over the past and not been the most consistent weapons to have as your 2 and 3. And again, I mentioned it prior. If you don't have 4 who you can count on at the wide receiver position, that to me already dings you and kind of sets you back a little bit. You just need that consistency there. It's very, very important. So seeing what Jeff does there, still has Shaheed on the bench, still has Gabe Davis, still has Jalen Hyatt, who I was super high on pre-draft. So again, he Jeff Sims does a good job of grabbing a kind of I call them lottery tickets at the wide receiver position, but he's going to need some of those guys to cash out for him to kind of make the push and be relevant this season. But definitely has a lot of tickets there. Definitely has some potential there. Again, like the running back room, just need to make sure we get some depth behind those wide receivers. So next we're going to go into Casper the Friendly Ghost, aka Mr. Greg. Going on probably, I don't know, 8 months since I've heard a peep from Greg. That seems pretty normal. Doesn't seem like it's changing despite the issues. That being said, I think Greg is in a very, very good position with his roster. There is one glaring concern for Greg's roster outside of that. I'm very excited to see what his team actually does. One wonderful core of wide receivers kind of snuck up on me, but CeeDee Lamb, Jahan Dotson, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy. Um, Youth, balance, upside. Got the stack with CD and Dak. It's just a very nice room. It's something I think we'd all be happy with having. Lots of upside there, lots of high end potential. Ridley's that kind of an X factor in regards to what we're going to see from him, what he looks like in that offense. Some people feel he's going to be the automatic forget it one there. Some people feel Kirk is still going to be prominent there. Some people love Zay Jones still taking targets over there. Evan Ingram just got a deal. ETN's going to get some pass catching. Tank Bigsby's been a star of kind of the offseason for that team. But again, he's still splitting carries with ETN. So there's just a lot of mouths to feed. So I'm going to be very interested to see how Trevor Lawrence kind of splits that up. But really love the build. I think it's smart building around the wide receiver room like he did. Bijan, Bijan's Bijan. He looks great, looks fantastic. He looks as advertised, in my opinion. But after you go past Bijan, it is a wasteland. There's not a lot there. Rashad Penny, Ezekiel Elliott behind Ramondre. Ugh. So I just think Greg's in a position where if he wants to kind of hold suit and hold pat and kind of ride it out, and next year use that first round pick to draft another running back, I think Greg's team will be very similar to Jeff's team, Jeff with a G. 2 young studs at running back, a very nice young wide receiver core, and kind of be in a position to be competitive for a long time. If Greg is tired of kind of fucking around and not finding out, he could drop, a first round pick or a second and try to go get, a very, very strong running back too. Adam with Bijan. Like, let's get in this. Some people enjoy taking $100 and pissing that away. I'm not one of them. Never going to happen for me. So I encourage all these teams, go after it, man. The whole point of this is to be competitive, is to win, is to push for a championship, is to try to get into the playoffs. So Greg's doing a great job. I actually love the build of Greg here. Didn't love his draft. I think that first round pick, if he added in a running back, I don't know, an Aaron Jones, a Derrick Henry, something like that instead, and had that to pair with Bijan, I think Greg would be one of the top teams in the league. Especially tight end is covered, Dallas Goedert. So he's just done a great job there kind of constructing the roster. So it's on Greg to, we'll see if Greg wants to commit this year or wait one more year. He's in a good spot to have options. Yours truly, Obi-Don Kenobi. Man, I had a weird offseason, man. Liquidated a lot of top end, higher end, older assets. Kind of wanted to shift my roster around, be a little bit more fluid. I've talked a lot with Jeff with a G about this and kind of building kind of a hybrid roster, a roster that can kind of support and be ready for all the transitions coming up. So I went out, I acquired a James Cook, a Brian Robinson. We got Traylon Burks. We drafted Jordan Addison, but still kept those ready-made players, the Tyler Lockett's, the Terry McLaurins. I'm big on Brandon Ayuk this year. I think Ayuk's going to have a very, very big year. I really hope I'm not wrong there, but I will go ahead and stake my claim now. I think Ayuk will be in that wide receiver one discussion. So I've done a good job. And then, of course, DJ Moore, keeping those ready-made guys, 26, 25, 24, that are ready to go and will be ready to go for the next couple years while still having a Burks and an Addison on the bench to kind of develop, same as a Brian Robinson and same as a James Cook. It looks like James Cook might get that opportunity to be that guy for them over there. So I definitely wanted to take my shots and kind of get younger. It's always fuck them picks for me. But this year, instead of going out and buying older, aging assets, I bought some younger ones who I've done some research on, and I'm very confident that they will kind of pay out in the long run when other teams are kind of scrambling and looking to make options or trying to be cheap and go and get little, puzzle pieces to fix their holes. I think there's going to get to a point where people have their players on their rosters and people aren't going to be selling cheap. People aren't going to get bamboozled as often. Teams that a lot of people use and abused are in rebuilds. So they're going to have to turn to other sources, man. And I think people need to recognize that in the league. I'm not going to say much more than that. But super excited about my build. No picks. Don't have that high end there. I got Michael Mayer for the future, but the questions and weakness for my roster will 100% have to be tight end. But we'll have to wait and see with that. It'll be a streaming situation until Mayer kind of comes in and takes on. I've staked my claim with Michael Mayer there. So very interesting to see there. Anything can happen there, but you best believe I'm going to be a competitor. So speaking of competitors, can't talk about competitors without talking about Drew. Lovely commish, man, big commish, big appreciations. Been open to some new changes this offseason, kind of let more conversations kind of flow a little bit more freely. So I always want to, tip the cap to the commish. This is our favorite league, man. All of us. We love this league, and Drew's the commissioner there, and it's not easy wrangling us all together. So always big ups and respects to Drew. Drew speaks for itself, man. Elite wide receiver room, elite tight end room, elite quarterback. Drew is Drew. He's going to position himself to be a force in this league every single season. Garrett Wilson, Stephon Diggs. Man, I've been trying to get Diggs off Drew. I just don't think it'll ever happen. I don't think it'll stop me from trying, but man, anyways, so Higgins, Waddle, mentioned Garrett Wilson earlier. So it's going to be a good situation, man. Drew is always positioned himself to be a strong, if not the favorite competitor. Only concern is that running back room, man. I've talked about it, mentioned it. So his lead dogs right now are going to be Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, and Alexander Madison. So Kamara is going to have that 3-game suspension. So his season is really going to come down to if these three can perform early on for him. If Drew can make it out, be 3-0 to start the season, I think he's going to be loving that. But if he finds himself in a position 1-2, 2-1, and then maybe Kamara takes a minute to get back into the flow of things, again, that just will put Drew in a situation he's not really used to being in. And I know a situation he's not going to want to be in. Now, I'm not making that claim he'll be there. Again, these are just laying out the areas of concern for the roster, man. What does Dalvin Cook's contract situation look like next year? What is Cam Akers? What is Alexander Madison? All these guys are going to be free agents this year or after this year and then the following year as well. So getting ahead of that, Drew still has that first-round pick. He may just play this game where he kind of scoops up when you have a roster that's so good like Drew's. You can kind of play this game a little bit more, not as ahead of the game at the running back position. You can kind of take those fill-ins and guys that are just viable and give you those 10 to 15 points a week. I think that's all Drew really needs. So if he makes that commitment, decides to spend that first or break down an asset or something like that, be interested to see where he goes. I think the running back market has dried up in our league, but still super interesting to see. Drew will be in the playoffs regardless. So how he gets there will be a fun challenge to kind of check in week to week and figure that out. But I don't think there's any questions that we're expecting Drew to be there and be there pretty comfortably. So Moving on to John. All right, Big John, Mr. 101, Mr. Steal Your Girl. John, great young core man. Anthony Richardson, Kadarius Toney, Zach Charbonnet, Devon A. Chain, Tank Dell had a great first preseason game. So I think John's in a tough spot, man, where he's going to have to just ride this wave for a little bit. I'm in a position where he has 2 first-round picks and 1 second. I think John here has to be trying to push in and get another first-round pick by the end of the season, whether he pairs off one of his young guns, a Kadarius Toney in a second for a first, something like that to a competing team if it shows some flashes. But John's in a good position, man. He feels like he's got his quarterback for the future. He's got some young running backs on rookie deals there and a few wide receivers that he really likes. So John's in a position, man. Marvin Harrison will change a lot. I don't know if it's going to change everything. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be weaseling in John's ear saying, "Oh, John, you should take this package. This will be better for your build. You should take this package. You should be better for your build." I would just say this, John, just draft Marvin Harrison, man. If you're going to suck this long, at least have a great player on your roster for a time being, and then you figure out the rest, man. If you want to trade him afterwards, you do that. But at least have Harrison on your roster. And that would be the only advice I will send your way, John. But John's very straightforward this year. He's going to be tanking it up. He's going to be doing what he's got to do, but he'll be grinding. He'll be hustling and getting it done. Avery. I don't know what Avery's doing, to be honest. I love Avery. I think he's got some high-end guys here, Justin Fields, Debo, CMC. But to me, he's just not committed either way. There's been several times I've reached out, hey, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to trade? Are you looking to acquire? And it's kind of the same response, which is always okay. Each owner is entitled to how they want to play their game. But, man, I don't know what he's doing, man. He needs to move off some of these win-now assets and maybe look more long-term, or he needs to commit, burn some of these picks, and try to add some things because I think where it stands, Adam Thielen was his highest finished wide receiver last season at wide receiver like 29. I think Debo was 44. Nuke didn't finish and play the season. So there's just a lot of concerns there. Javonte, is he fully healthy coming into Denver? I know they're saying he's cleared, but is he cleared? Lots of concern there, lots of issues. I think he really needs to commit either way, or he's going to find himself in this same position next year with only an older Debo and older CMC. And I just don't know, man. So Avery's going to have to he's going to have to shake some things up. Some players are going to have to hit. He's got a Romeo Dobbs on the bench who could be interesting there. But again, don't really know the vision of Avery. Don't see him communicating. Don't see him making deals other than with John for Tyler Lockett and now Adam Thielen. So we got to see what Avery does, man. But it's not looking the greatest, brother. So you gotta stay fluid. You gotta stay ahead of problems in Dynasty. If you just try to jump in and play redraft every other year, you're gonna find yourself in some hot water, especially with the competitors that we have in this league. So moving on to competitors, Jeff with a G, Triple G. Man, rebuild has been in motion, but I want to just say, man, Jeff, you're doing a great job, man. Fantastic young wide receiver core. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jamar Chase, Drake London, Quentin Johnston. Just took Dalton Kincaid, which looks like the X factor coming out of the draft this year at the tight end position for the Bills. Been making snags, one-handed catches all offseason. Has to be excited to kind of maybe find that diamond in the rough at such a tough position there. So just elite prospects, man. Still has that first round pick. I think Jeff's 1 year away, man. If Jeff wanted to go out and add an Ayuk or add a James Cook, again, I'm just using my players because they come to mind. No, they're not available, Jeff. We've already talked about this. But you have those types of kind of players that are already kind of coming into their own with all the rookie talent that he has. Jeff could be a huge force, man. So I think he's just going to sit pat, probably wait 1 more year. But I think Jeff's right at that cusp of being a competitor. He needs that depth. He needs to be able to get through bye weeks and rotationals and week injuries and things like that. But Ken Walker, Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Herbert, Jamar Chase, Drake London, Dalton Kincaid, Quentin Johnson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. It's getting nice, baby. It's getting nice. So, Jeff, now or never, big dog, but you need to get this party started. Still tipping on fofos. Paul Wall, big sauce god. Paul, so I gave him his strengths or his high-end assets that he keeps right now. So, AJ, Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, that'll get you through any week, man. When you have those types of hitters, those 3 all hit, that's getting you through any which week that you're dealing with. To me, concerns, and the only concerns is just depth for Paul right now. I think he's trying to kind of makeshift the RB3 situation. He's also trying to kind of makeshift that that wide receiver 4 and 5 for depth rotational situation. And to each his own, man. If Paul feels like he can get by and get that done, more power to him. Keep those picks in play. That way he can draft and bring in some young talent later on. He added Kyle Pitts over, still has Njoku, so loving the tight end room there. Deontay Johnson was his biggest X factor. I think if Deontay can come in and get back into that high end wide receiver 2 caliber, I think pairing that with AJ and pairing that with Christian Kirk, who I think will still finish as a wide receiver 2, he may be in a really good position there, man. So Paul, always going to be respected, man. He's going to be a force. He's going to come in and do some work just to see what work he does and how much of a force that he is going to be something I'm excited to watch and see. Last but not least, man, most interesting team is Justin here, man. Justin's strengths right now, I put picks and youth, man. 3 first-round picks, most draft capital of anybody going into next season. He's got George Pickens, Jameson Williams, Devontae Smith, Brees Hall. I mean, these are some young foundational pieces that Justin's going to build around. And if you know anything about Justin, he believes in his guys. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they play that down, man. Is Justin competing? Some people feel like he's kind of shipping it all away. But if Michael Thomas comes in and Barkley shows out and Mike Williams shows out and Geno balls out, Justin could still be a competitor this season with 3 first-round picks. So I don't know what Justin's plan is. I know the league is kind of split. They think some things he's tanking, some things he's still competing and just going about it a different route after he traded me McLaurin back. But it's going to be very interesting, man. It's exciting to see. That's all the rosters, man. I wanted to do a quick run through. It's only going to be a little 30-minute video today. But, man, I'm excited, man. Lots of burners, lots of roster changes this offseason, lots of teams that were competitors that aren't becoming competitors. We're going to find out, baby. Dynasty till death. Champions are made, baby. Either get with it or get lost. We'll catch you back on the flip side. Y'all have a great day, and let's get it.